Hey, boys and girls, we're back for chapter 5 in our Magic Treehouse book, A Perfect Time for Pandas. So, boys and girls, in chapter 5, okay, we're going to be talking about something important, and I want you to think about this when we're done with the chapter. I want you to think about our two main characters, Annie and Jack, okay? And I want you to think about how those characters are different. So I want you to contrast those characters. So, in your journal entry, I want you to look at your illustration page and I want you to draw a picture of Jack and Annie, and I want you to draw and label something that's different about them. It can be anything. It can be their different clothing. It can be what they look like. It can be what they like or maybe what they don't like. It can be anything. And then I want you to see if you can write a sentence about how those two characters are different. So I want you to label and draw an illustration. And then I want you guys to write a sentence or maybe even two about how those two characters are different. So, on to chapter number 5. The title of our chapter is Bing Bing. Annie pulled Jack to the bars of the panda house and pointed out to the yard. "See? Over there," she whispered. A giant panda was climbing down the trunk of a maple tree, rump first. She touched the ground and then sat up and raised her head. She was bigger than Jack expected. Her head was the size of a basketball. "Oh, wow," said Annie. "She's amazing." "Yeah, she is," whispered Jack. The giant panda was much more amazing in real life than in photos, Jack thought. She looked like a gigantic, stuffed animal that had come alive. Her nostrils quivered as she sniffed the air. Her black ears twitched. "Hello, Bing Bing," Master Lee said. Jack and Annie jumped in surprise. Master Lee pushed a cart loaded with bamboo through the back door of the cage. "Can we go out of the yard and pet Bing Bing?" asked Annie. "Oh, no," said Master Lee. "We always keep our big pandas separated from our visitors. They won't hurt you, but we don't want people intruding into their space." "Really?" said Annie. "Pandas are not pets," said Master Lee. "They are wild animals, and we want them to live as naturally as possible." "Well, I guess that makes sense," said Annie. She let out a big sigh as she stared at Bing Bing. "It's just that she looks so soft and cuddly." Jack felt sorry for Annie. He knew how badly she wanted to be close to the pandas. "At least we get to actually see one," he said. "Now that we have found Bing Bing, I have one more job for you," said Master Lee. He handed each of them clipboards with paper and pencils. "I need you to record data. If she stays in view, observe her and write down every sound and movement she makes. Can you do that?" "Sure. Jack loves to collect data," said Annie, trying to be cheerful. "And I love to watch animals. So are you true scientists?" "Good," said Master Lee. "Now I will get more bamboo." The panda keeper dumped the cart full of bamboo onto the floor and left Jack and Annie all alone. Jack and Annie took off their gloves and observed Bing Bing through the bars. They held their pencils ready to record the data. The giant panda didn't pay any attention to them. She sat against the maple tree and scratched her belly by rubbing it up and down on the trunk of the tree. Then she scratched the top of her head, a forepaw, and her belly with a hind paw. Annie giggled. Jack wrote, "Scratches belly, head, and back." The panda raised a paw and scratched her nose. Jack added on his notes, "and her nose." The panda swatted at a fly to shoo it away, and Jack wrote on his notes, "Swats fly." "Hey, I think she's coming over here," Annie whispered. Bing Bing had stood up. She was staring in Jack and Annie's direction. Then she started moving on all fours, very carefully, rolling her steps. She came right up to the bars of the cage, sat down, and peered at Jack and Annie. Jack held his breath. He felt as if he and Annie were zoo animals, and the panda was a curious visitor observing them. The giant panda tilted her large head. Then she covered her eyes with her paws. Is she playing peekaboo? Oh my gosh, Annie whispered with delight. The panda put her paws down and looked directly at Jack. He stared back into her bright, intelligent eyes. Holding her gaze, he lowered his pencil and clipboard. Jack felt as if he were falling through time. For a moment, the panda wasn't 8 years old. She was 3 million years old. She was filled with wisdom. She knew things he could never understand. He didn't know what to write on his clipboard. Words couldn't possibly capture the wonder of her. "I'm back. How are you doing?" asked Master Li. Jack snapped out of his dreamlike thoughts and turned to the panda keeper. We're doing fine," he said. "How unusual that Bing Bing came so close to you," said Master Li. Walking over to them, "Did you record her behavior?" Silently, Jack and Annie handed him their pencils and clipboard. Annie's paper was blank, and only a few words were written on Jack's paper. "Ah," said Master Li with a smile. "Well, if you ever come back, you can observe a little bit more." Jack nodded, but he knew he'd observed a lot. Only it was more with his heart than with his head. "You have to go now," said Master Li. "I saw your grandmother heading to the bus with everyone else. I'm surprised she didn't come for you two." "She's a little forgetful sometimes," said Annie. She turned back to the panda, who was still staring at them. "Bye-bye, Bing Bing." "Bye, Bing Bing," Jack murmured, looking into the panda's eyes one more time. He hated to leave. Their time together had been so short. "Hurry," said Master Li. "You don't want to keep the others waiting." Master Li ushered them out the back door of the cage and along the path. He stopped at the goldfish pond. "Follow the stone path to the entrance gate. Don't forget to leave your volunteer clothes in one of the bins here." "Thank you, Master Li," said Jack. "Goodbye, Master Li." Then he turned and headed back to Bing Bing's house. "I have to admit, that was really, really great," said Jack. "Ready to get back to our mission?" "Yes," said Annie. "But first, let's follow the path the other way. Maybe we can get a quick peek at some more pandas." "Okay, but a really quick peek," said Jack. "We have to solve that riddle." Jack and Annie started down the path that led away from the main entrance. They went around a corner and stopped. "Oh, wow," they said together, and then they burst into laughter. A dozen little panda cubs were playing in a huge fenced area. A sign said, "Panda Kindergarten." Well, maybe we should invite the pandas to our kindergarten class. The cubs were the size of chubby human toddlers. Some were swinging on rubber tires and wooden swing sets. Others were climbing logs and sliding down a slide. Some rolled on the grass while others wrestled and tumbled or did somersaults. Oh, I love them," said Annie. "They all look just like Roly and Poly. I love them so much. Don't you?" "Well, some of them kind of look like you guys, don't you? Or don't they? Maybe there's Dawson in there, or Cassie, or Marie, or Ellie, or Grayson. I'm not sure." "Yeah, I do. They are super cute," said Jack, laughing. "Look at those guys on the..." "Hey, what are you two still doing down there?" someone asked. Jack and Annie turned in surprise. Dr. Ling was hurrying down the path toward them. "Everyone has left! Your grandmother and the rest of the group must have forgotten all about you. How irresponsible. Go, 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 go. Try to catch them. Grandma, cried Annie. She and Jack took off running. Laughing, they tore to the front entrance. They yanked off their volunteer clothes and shoes and threw them in the bin by the gate. Then they dashed across the bridge. The tour bus was turning onto the highway as Jack and Annie charged towards the parking lot. Bye, Grandma, yelled Annie, waving. Jack laughed. Come on, he said. Let's grab our bikes and go, before Sylvie gets in trouble. Jack and Annie were both laughing as they climbed on their mountain bikes and started back towards Wulong Town. The sun had come out from behind the clouds. It made the wet green fields in the valley sparkle. Not only was it a beautiful ride, Jack thought, and pedaled back towards town with a lot easier and pedaling uphill from the Panda Center. He enjoyed it. For a little while, he was able to coast without pedaling at all. I hated to leave the pandas, Annie shouted. Me too, Jack yelled back. I love Bing Bing and the cubs and the newborn baby. But the sooner we get back to Wulong Town, the sooner we can help save Penny. What time do you think it is? I saw a clock near the center's entrance, said Annie. It said 2:15. That still gives us a lot of time. Good, said Jack. Where will we look for that healthy, tough, round food? Said Annie. Oh, I forgot. That is what they were looking for their mission. I guess we need to visit more restaurants, yelled Jack. Yes, said Annie. I'm starving. Me too, said Jack. Bring on the green bean jelly and fried stinky tofu. Annie laughed. She yelled something back to Jack, but he didn't hear her. What did you say? He called. Before Annie could answer, a deep rumbling sound filled the air. Then the roadway began to tremble and buckled, and everything around them brushed. Rocks and trees began shaking and moving. And that's the end of the chapter. What do you guys think was happening? Maybe so. All right, guys. So on your journal pages, remember, you guys are drawing and illustrating our two main characters and something that's different about the two characters. Maybe something that's different about Jack and Annie, okay? Or something that's different from Annie to Jack, okay? So I want you guys to think about that. Label your picture if you can, and then write a couple sentences. Maybe one good sentence, and use those sight words and your finger spaces and your punctuation and all of those things that we've been working on, okay? Or maybe two sentences. It's up to you, okay? Have fun today. I miss you guys, and I will be back on Monday to read you another chapter. Adios!